Guys, welcome back to the Blazer Victory Podcast, episode number 51. This is your co-host, John Duncan, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Steve Irvine. And Steve, it's time to jump back into Conference USA play this week and try to, get things going in the right direction again as our UAB Blazers get to host the FAU Owls this Saturday afternoon at Protective Stadium. But how are you doing this evening, man?
I'm good. Ready to get back to Protective Stadium on Saturday and just I think I'm as excited to go there this Saturday as I was last Saturday, which means it was being there was such a great experience. So looking forward to it and ready to get back on the field.
Definitely agree. Guys, this is going to be a 2:30 p.m. Central Time kickoff. It will be aired on Stadium. And for those that don't have Stadium, I think they're going to air it locally on WABM 68. But check your local listings for sure. But more importantly, hope you can make it to Protective Stadium. But if not, definitely get your radio up. Jocks 94.5 FM starting at 1:30 p.m. Central Time as Landrum Roberts starts off the coverage. And then David Crane, Steve Irvine, and Trey Ragland will be on the call for the game this Saturday. Steve, I wish we could have an easier opponent coming off of the Liberty game, but unfortunately, we've got a very tough Conference USA foe this Saturday.
Yeah, and Coach talked about it after the game, and on Monday this is just a schedule that there's just no easy games. There's really nothing, no time to kind of take a breath, so you just got to jump into it. And I was thinking this earlier today, just kind of in my mind wondering, do you get more motivation coming off, a tough loss and not playing like you expect to play, in that Liberty game, or you get motivation from, beating the mess out of your biggest rival, in the Shula Bowl, so I don't know. Yeah. I don't know who's most, who's most motivated coming into it, but I think both teams have plenty of reasons to be motivated. So, it's going to be a fun game. It's all about matchups. It's all about health, and it's all about who makes plays. I think, I was thinking of this earlier too, is Liberty won that game decisively. There's no doubt, scoreboard doesn't lie, but if UAB makes some plays, that were available. Now, these aren't plays that just you think like, boy, it'd be nice if they would have made a play here. I mean, they were available plays that they didn't make. It could have been a different game, and it wasn't, and that's the bottom line. But I don't think it was as lopsided. I don't think it had to be as lopsided as it was, because I think there were some plays that UAB left on the field that they're not going to leave on the field every week. So hopefully this is one of those weeks that UAB doesn't leave any plays on the field, and it could be a different outcome. So we'll see. I mean, I think it's, like I say, it's, health is going to be an issue for, both sides, who's healthy, who's out there. And so, we'll see.
Yeah. And real quick, just going back to the Liberty game, I mean, it was just a game of missed opportunities for UAB. And guys, I know, if you haven't already, go back and listen to our recap episode of the Liberty game. I know those losses are hard to kind of bring up again and listen, but you definitely want to hear us discuss those missed opportunities if you haven't already. So go back and listen to that episode. But going to this FAU game, and I know, Steve, you just mentioned, health is a concern. It was a good thing, and Bill Clark, during his press conference on Monday, he did say that we're getting Tyler Taylor back, and that is a really good sign because we definitely need him on that front.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's huge. I mean, because he was a guy that they really thought might develop into, a big time, inside linebacker, one of those kind of guys that could get in an NFL camp type inside linebacker. So, I think that not having him so far is really hurt, and I think that, this is a week that you need him, because I think that, one thing that with this offense, with this FAU offense, if you can take away, say, the running game and try to get them one dimensional and that type of thing, it's going to be huge, and hey, well, I mean, I really thought they took the running game away against Liberty, the traditional running game, not Malik Willis turning into Superman, but, and hey, FAU's got a quarterback. He's, N'Kosi Perry, who can do those type of things. Now he's not Malik Willis, but Malik Willis is in a small class of current college quarterbacks. So, but he's certainly capable of beating you on throwing the ball and running the ball, and so he's a guy that's they can't let him turn into Superman like Malik Willis did. But I think Tyler Taylor will help, and I think I don't know who else will get back. Obviously Chris Mole will not. And that'll miss my. I don't expect to see Dijon Turner. You never know, but I don't expect to see him, and that hurts. Damon Miller, I'm not sure what his injury was on that. That was scary when he went down. After making the tackle there at the goal line on Malik Willis. So I don't know what his availability will be. We know we don't have Jalen Key
for the targeting
for the first half. We know that's he's out for the first half. So I mean, there's going to be some guys out, but I think there'll be some of those guys come back. I would love to see TD Marshall get back. Don't know. I think the one thing that's really struck me about TD Marshall, and I think this is one reason I'd love to have him back, is his leadership has not changed at all, even though he's not playing. And that's, to me, a true leader. A true leader is a guy who leads even if he can't be out there. I mean, you look at he put a tweet out apologizing for the performance.
Yeah.
That's a leader, man. That's a lead, and he don't even play it.
Yeah, didn't even play.
Yeah, and you watch him on the sideline at Tulane, and he was coaching guys up, and he was motivating guys, and hey, here's a guy who came back for another year to try to better himself and in an NFL situation and to be part of this team, and he hadn't played much because he's been banged up. A lot of guys pout during that. A lot of guys drop their head, and a lot of guys, but he hadn't pouted. He's out there leading, and so I think it's really would be great to get him back on the field, because then he can lead by example and lead through his actions and or through his words and that type of thing. So, I'd love to see him get back out there. But the bottom line is you got to play with whoever you have. And even though the numbers, the depth is certainly not what it was when you lose a bunch of guys, they still are capable, and they're still capable of getting out there. And they got tired, no doubt, chasing Malik Willis. And hey, N'Kosi Perry can do the same thing to you.
Yeah.
But they've got to have help from the off. They didn't get help from the offense in the second half, against Liberty, and they've got to have help from them. And that'll go a long way in keeping your defense, a banged up defense fresh. If their offense can help them. And I don't mean just by holding the ball, but by scoring. Just a motivation of coming off or picking a team up when you're scoring, and so it's got to be a two-sided thing. They got in both offense and defense to do this thing on on Saturday along with special teams. But so it'll be interesting to see. We'll see what happens. I do think this. I do think the offense is, even though I love FAU's defense, I think they got a lot of players. I do think the offense is going to respond and make those plays that were there.
Me too.
I really do. You think about it. You name me another time in the last 2 years that Trey Shropshire has dropped that ball.
Mm-mm.
He hadn't. I don't remember a time. Now he's dropped. I'm not saying he hadn't dropped a pass, but that ball right there is kind of his thing. That's what he does. And he just dropped it. But that's not a common occurrence. I think Garrett Prince had a drop the other night. I don't remember too many times he's dropped a ball. Just things like that. And hey, one just drops. Dylan Hopkins missed two. I think Shropshire both times. I know at least one time in the first half that could have been touchdowns that he just overthrew them by just very, very little, and one by 3 or 4 yards. But he has proven that he can make that throw during the first part of the season. So if he gets that same opportunity on Saturday, I like the chances that he's going to complete it, or he's going to put the ball in his hands. I just think the offense is going to make more plays. And one thing that was interesting to me in the Monday press conference is, Coach Clark just talking about how the pressure's off of them a little bit more than it was last week. You come in the first game and it's, anyone make an excuse and you still got to play through it. But, the pressure's, it's not the same pressure going into the second game at Protective Stadium as it was the first. And so, I think that's going to help. I think they'll be a little looser. And we'll see what happens, but it's going to be two teams. And I mean, I don't know. It's going to be two of the better teams in Conference USA on the same field, and we'll see who wins.
Yeah, and since 2017, one of these two schools have each year won the Conference USA championship. So, battle of the champs. And guys, we're actually about to roll a great interview that we had with Jack Whidden from the FAU Owls Nest. Definitely give them a follow on Twitter at FAU_Owls_Nest. They do a great job covering FAU. Jack also has a podcast that he does with Kirk through FAU Owls Nest called Inside the Burrow. Check that out. They just dropped their UAB preview, I believe, yesterday. But definitely just check them out. They do great work for FAU. But, Stevie, I'm definitely looking forward to this game. And let's face it, this game is more important than, last week, because last week was a non-conference game. This is a conference game, a very, Bill Clark talks all the time about, breaking it down every practice on champs, playing for that get another ring. So this game is way more important. So, guys, we need you to get back out to Protective Stadium this week if you can at 2:30. Get there early and, help us cheer on the Blazers. But, again, if you're not able to, make sure that you turn it on Jocks 94.5 FM radio and give David Crane, Steve Irvine, and Trey Ragland a listen if you can't make it. But also, if you want to watch it on TV, it will be televised on Stadium. But, guys, without further ado, we'll go ahead and roll our interview that we had with Jack. Jack, thanks again so much for coming on. And, guys, we'll be back for a recap of the FAU game. Go Blazers. Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Blazer Victory Podcast. And we are pleased to be joined by Jack Whidden from the FAU Owls Nest, which is a great website, independent website that covers FAU sports. Go ahead and give them a follow right now at twitter.com at FAU_Owls_Nest. And also, Jack does a great podcast called Inside the Burrow that's through FAU Owls Nest that covers just football specifically. I think he does that with Kirk, and I was able to check those guys out today, and they do a fantastic job covering FAU. But Jack, welcome to the program, man. Thanks for hopping on with us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. The guys at Blazer Victory Podcast, thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited because, this Saturday it's going to be a doozy and a half.
Oh, it is, man. And, I don't want to jump too ahead, but we might meet again later at the end of the season.
Dude, slow down, man.
Hey, we'll see. I'm sure we're definitely going to be talking about that. But, I mean, things in the last 7 days have really opened up in the East for sure, especially regarding a certain school in Huntington, West Virginia. We'll see. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Well, Jack, just off the top, buddy, can you tell us just basically on the offensive side of the ball for this 2021 FAU team, what is the big difference between this season versus last year? I mean, is it just N'Kosi Perry? Or because, last year, watching FAU's offense was, I don't want to offend anybody, but it was pretty bad to watch at times.
No offense taken, man.
Hey, but last week, you guys clearly figured something out.
Yeah, no doubt about it. N'Kosi Perry is definitely part of that for sure. It's quite interesting because last year, under Lane Kiffin, we just got so used to FAU just putting up points at will. No offense. I'm sure y'all remember Lane Kiffin's last game, which would be that 2019 Conference USA Championship game.
No, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. What happened? What happened to that one?
I told myself I wasn't going to mention that, and then here we go, like 2 minutes in, boom. So
you'd be crazy not to mention it, but we remember it well. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. It was a good day, and it was a good opportunity to meet and talk to a lot of my UAB friends I've gotten to know over the last decade. But nonetheless, the last season was Willie Taggart's first, and it definitely was different when it came to the offense. You guys might remember Chris Robinson.
Yeah.
He left the program going into 2020. He's kind of had his fair litter of off the field issues, and we were really hoping that he would kind of get it straight. He was actually a blue chip recruit at Oklahoma before he came to FAU. And he left that program because of off the field issues. And it was kind of like third, fourth, fifth strike. I mean, dude, come on. How many more chances do you need? I hope he's doing better now. I don't know what's happening with him. But I do know that it is his backup, Nick Tronti, took over the reins. Tronti, we kind of call him the closer. If you guys are any baseball guys, you have your starter, reliever, setup man, and your closer. You know, someone that's going to kind of slam the door on the game. That was him. He would be the kind of guy that would run like a 4-minute offense to milk the clock, and he would do it with such ease. Now he's thrown in at the starting position. He's thrown at it. Hey, you're starting first quarter, but it was a bit shaky. He's a really good kid, very smart, especially when it comes to the game of football. But it really wasn't clicking. So insert redshirt freshman Javion Posey. He's more of a scramble, razzle dazzle. I made the comparison to Quentin Flowers at USF, who Willie Taggart saw firsthand back in those really, really good, high-scoring USF 2016, 2017, I want to say, seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, they played in the Birmingham Bowl. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah. They looked solid. Even when Charlie Strong came on, they looked pretty good for a little bit, and then they kind of, tapered off a tad. I mean, a tad. Now they're yikes. But yeah. I digress. But he was still so raw. Really struggled when it came to throwing the ball down the field. And I think just trying to learn the new scheme, Willie Taggart, he actually runs slightly more of a pro style offense. When he was at USF, they coasted the offense, or they coined the offense the Gulf Coast offense, kind of like West Coast and Gulf Coast in Mexico. Get it? That's good because USF's location in Tampa. So it is a little bit of a hybrid of a West Coast pro style under center I formation every once in a while, which is so rare in Conference USA. And mixing some of that tempo, spread, shotgun, maybe some RPO that we've gotten used to from FAU and certainly the best Conference USA offenses over the last few years. So last week, I think the offense just kind of exploded because they just played a really bad defense. And they had the opportunity to kind of get their scheme off right the way they wanted. FAU's offense since the Willie Taggart era, they really started off slow. Definitely more of a second half team, and this season has really showcased that. Air Force extremely so. The Fordham game, an FCS opponent from the Bronx, I want to say. I mean, we didn't score a touchdown until the second quarter. Georgia Southern, same thing. And Georgia Southern, they're not as strong this year. So FIU was the very first time that the Owls have scored on the first possession, and I couldn't even tell you how long. Maybe since the Lane Kiffin era. So I think some of that, that kind of allowed the offense to kind of keep their game plan intact. And if they're able to kind of replicate that throughout the remainder of the year, then you have to think that a high-octane offense in paradise is back. Because the talent is certainly there, no doubt about it. And having a quarterback, if I may, one more note, having a quarterback like Posey that is able to throw the ball downfield, that is able to scramble to make some more time, someone that has the experience at a really high level coming from University of Miami like he does, certainly helps.
Well, I think one thing that, a question I think a lot of people had about N'Kosi Perry, coming into this was just consistency. I don't think he was the most consistent guy in Miami. And I mean, a lot of that was Miami wasn't consistent either, as a group. But I mean, it seems like, other than the Air Force game, which, was a, different game for him. I mean, it seems like he's been pretty consistent. I mean, you're talking about 10 touchdowns and 1 interception. That's pretty darn consistent, if you ask me. Has that been kind of a mark? Have you feel like he's been a consistent guy?
It's still a little too early to tell, no doubt about it. Especially when you throw in, I mean, the first game of the year was against UF. Their defense looks really solid. That loss that they had in Lexington to Kentucky was a bit shocking, if you ask me. Nothing against Big Blue Nation up there for the Wildcats, but I mean, UF looked like a college football playoff team when we played them.
Mhm.
And then you have Air Force. When Air Force scores 21 points in the first quarter, and by then the entire game plan is thrown out the book, or the entire book is thrown out the window, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
So it's still too early to tell, but I would say he has been a little more consistent than what we've seen in the past since Chris Robinson was under center. No doubt. That's a great observation.
Yeah, and Jack, real quick, going back to that Air Force game, what
do we
exactly?
have to?
I just don't know what happened there, man. Because like you mentioned, I watched the whole game, and I just I don't know. Was it like the altitude, like going from Florida to Colorado, or just because I don't know? It just things weren't clicking in that game. It seemed for FAU.
For sure. I actually asked Coach Taggart, hey man, I mean, Coach, you're a Florida boy too. He's from just south of Tampa. He actually went to Western Kentucky. Fun fact, played quarterback there. Before returning as a head coach later on around 2010, 2011. I asked him, is the elevation, is that going to be a problem for these Florida boys that haven't even seen a mountain before, most likely, let alone been on top of one? And he said, I don't know. Once you're playing in the game, it seems like it's a little bit exasperated within the media. It's a lot of media talking. I got to tell you, man, I mean, first off, you're playing a triple option team, so they're going to be seeing, 2nd and 4, 3rd and 1, 4th and inches almost every single drive. They're going to be on the field for 12, 13, 14 plays, taking up half the quarter. And then when you throw in the elevation up there, I mean, without a doubt, the defense, it looked gassed. And that's as Coach Bill Clark said, what he saw in 2019, it's a really stout, fast, strong defense. So it was definitely a bit surprising, and I think the altitude did have something to do with it. But when you're playing a triple option team, I mean, it's so hard. It's something you're only going to see once every few years, and I'm definitely happy that we're not going to be seeing them anytime soon. No doubt about it.
Well, hey, FAU and UAB might be playing some Navy every year, so hey, we might need to get used to it.
a little plug for the Alliance.
Right?
Alliance trademark. That's right. UAB, UTSA, FAU, and maybe Charlotte. We'll see. The Alliance, no doubt. Conference USA to the American. No fan bases that still use dial-up internet. So I'm sorry, Marshall. Y'all ain't included. No doubt about it. Sorry.
I like it.
Yes, but I mean, going back to that Air Force game, Jack, I mean, Air Force is a really good G5 team. And I mean, you look back at the Florida game, I mean, it is what it is. It's an SEC school. FAU still played well in that game, I thought, but the Air Force game was just a really odd game. Like, it just, I don't know. But going back to the offense for this year, it seems that this past week in the Shula Bowl against FAU ran a lot more hurry-up offense than they have, under Taggart. Do you anticipate them to do that just going forward, I guess, for the rest of the season? Or
that's another great observation. I hope so. Coach Taggart in his presser Monday morning said that he believes that the team works better when they do use that tempo. I mean, the team is all South Florida boys, mostly. So they're going to be insanely fast athletes that have natural speed to them. So when they use the tempo on top of that, there's a lot of success. And you saw that in the Lane Kiffin offense over the years. I think so. I hope so. He was a bit coy when saying if that's something that they're going to use a lot this year, but I think that might just be coach speak, especially now that we're in conference play. He doesn't want to tip his hand.
Right.
Well, I think if you put up 700 yards and 58 points running tempo, I'm thinking there's a pretty good chance you're going to see a lot of that again. I think he can be coy all he wants, but I think we're going to see. And it'd be crazy not to, until it fails. Yeah. Until, if it starts not working, then you go away from it. But until then, and especially this week when you're playing a UAB defense that's banged up in certain spots. And I don't know we don't know yet who'll be back. but their depth was the strength of this defense. And
Yep,
it still is a little bit, but they got a lot of guys out, so you'd be crazy not to run tempo against, in a game like this, and I know I can tell you, Bill Clark, if he mentions it in his Monday press conference, he expects to see tempo. When he's not gonna say that if he doesn't expect to see it. And so I think we'll see a lot of it on Saturday.
Well, shoot, boys, look what Western Kentucky's doing right now. I mean, they brought the tempo back to Bowling Green, and they look really good with Zappy under center up there,
Really good.
They also took the whole Houston Baptist team over there too. So.
That's all right.
That they did. But hey, sometimes that jump. I mean, Houston Baptist was D2 for a little bit before going FCS. Is that right?
Right. Yes,
they were. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was quite a jump, and I got to say, a lot of us down in Boca Raton, when we saw Western Kentucky tabbed as a dark horse, we're thinking, where is this coming from? Are you all serious? But I mean, they're making it work up there. So power to them. I think they're a threat, no doubt. Do y'all have to see them at all later on this year?
No, we've got Marshall out of the East and FAU. Yeah.
Yes,
yikes! That's a tough draw for y'all. But I mean, as defending champions, you kind of get used to having to play the best to be the best, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, they're not. Yeah, defending champion, they don't do a whole lot of favors for you, and they shouldn't. No. And that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, it's a tough little draw, but I would like to watch in person. I'd like to see Western Kentucky just to watch, watch what they've done, and that's the thing. I wasn't surprised that they were a dark horse team because they still have the pieces defensively. They were good defensively,
absolutely.
And they just were terrible on offense. They just were terrible.
I mean, if I may, that's something that since Western Kentucky has been in Conference USA, I kind of just grew accustomed to knowing that, hey, Hilltopper football means we're going to score 55 points at least, every Saturday. And last year, what were they averaging last year? 17? It was just, it was completely different to what we kind of grew accustomed to.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, no doubt. But they're back. I mean, they're back doing that. And I've seen them. I've caught a couple of their games, but I certainly would like to see it in person. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, they've got a tough one this Saturday. They got to play UTSA in Bowling Green, so that's going to be a fun one to watch too.
So we're big Hilltopper fans, man. Hilltoppers, right? Go Toppers.
The Tops are favored for that one last time I checked. I mean, knock on wood, boys, but that's 2 possible Conference USA championship games.
Yeah.
In the same week. I mean, who else is leading the West right now? Is it UTSA and y'all?
Well, I think you got to include Louisiana Tech in there just because they've had a couple. Well, I mean, they should have beat Mississippi State, and
NC State.
And NC State. I mean, so they played. They're pretty good. And now the good thing about them, if you're the rest of Conference USA, they find ways to lose, and they really always have. I mean, they really always have. They've got talent every year now, and they just seem to find ways to blow things,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll beat somebody. They'll always beat somebody, but then they'll find ways to blow it enough where they don't make a championship game. And so, but I think you've got to include them. Their talent wise, they're good enough.
That's the trademark Skip Holtz team. They'll find a way to choke it,
Yeah, it's absolutely.
Find a way to choke. Yeah,
absolutely.
Hey, are you gonna say there's no respect for 4-1 UTEP over here?
Hey, they're doing something
on the name, boys.
Hey, they're doing something down there in El Paso. Yeah, and they've got Southern Miss this week, so they've got a shot at going 5-1 too. So
they do. Yeah, they do. And it is good to see the improvement. It's good to see the improvement. Now, if they could play, New Mexico State every week, they could win a national championship, I guess. But they got to move out of that eventually. And so, but no, give them credit. They've done well.
Yeah. Their win over Old Dominion, that was an interesting one. I actually don't think ODU is as bad as people have them to be. I think they're very okay. But it's still an impressive win for the Miners, no doubt.
I agree.
real quick, can we talk about that? How UTEP played Old Dominion? I mean, think about how many miles are between those two schools.
Jeez.
Like, that's just Conference USA right there. That is just insane, man. I think it's like 2,000 miles, actually.
Yeah, it was. It was over 2,000 miles. Absolutely ridiculous. I saw CUSA BBS on Twitter was having a field day with that one. I think it was like 2,000 miles of nonchalant, maybe hate or something. I forgot what they called it.
Nice.
Trademark CUSA, man. I mean, it's one of the issues. I mean, I'm sure y'all have been talking about it as well, but it's one of the issues with the conference. One of the many unfortunate issues that there's just no geographic common sense, I guess you could say. What's the point of that? There's none.
No, there's not. You know, I mean, the only time that to me there's a point of it if you have a very distinct West and a very distinct East, and you kind of like that, like years ago when they were going to bring the Mountain West Conference and Conference USA together and kind of have a big super conference sort of thing, but you would still play within your say Conference USA, and you'd have a couple crossovers just to have some national, kind of get a different look.
Yeah, make it fun.
Yeah, to me that's fine, but when you're talking about a West that includes UAB and UTEP, that doesn't make any sense, or whoever, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But if you have a distinct divisions within your conference, that's great. I mean, I think I would love to see that. I'd love to see that would go on now, but it has to be distinct.
Absolutely. And it's weird because Conference USA, you have a lot of longtime rivals or teams that are just very close to each other. Like, let's say Middle Tennessee and UAB, but they're in different divisions. That line in the middle is kind of blurred. And, it just really doesn't make a lot of sense. And furthermore, when you're doing those cross-country trips, we see it, here from the tip of South Florida, but especially if you're doing Norfolk to El Paso, think about the Olympic sports. Think about basketball. UTEP's travel partner is San Antonio, which is still, I mean, how far is San Antonio from El Paso? I don't know.
It's quite. Yeah, it's. I think it's probably about an 8-hour drive.
That's a schlep. Yeah. I mean, and you're not going to see nothing for that 8-hour drive. You'll see 3 tumbleweeds and that's it. All the way to West Texas. Right. So it's something.
And for football, it's not as much. I mean, I know, traveling, doing the radio and traveling with the team. Like when we went to El Paso last year, our year before last, or whenever it was, doing the charter stuff, it's not bad. It really isn't. I mean, you get on a plane, I mean, it was 2.5 hours or something. It wasn't bad. But you're right. You talk about the Olympic sports, you talk about basketball, who don't, none of those charter. And, you're talking about a full day there and back, and that's hard, man. That's, that's hard, especially in basketball with the way they're doing things now, golly, you might be there a week, and that's hard, but, football is not as much, but, certainly the other sports is just, it's almost impossible.
It makes me feel really bad for like the soccer teams and such, and I don't think they have baseball over there, but so on and so forth. We can go down the line. It's tough, no doubt.
Right.
And real quick too, looking at Conference USA leadership, Judy McLeod and them were freaking out when Facebook shut down a couple of days ago. They're like, "Well, where we gonna put our games on, man?"
We're definitely talking about issues in Conference USA. That has to be one of them. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys know or not, but I said something on the FAU Owl's Nest about a week ago when things are really going down with the Mountain West. The 4 programs out there saying no to joining the American. I had a source that said that within the next year or after this following sports season, which is when the TV contract is up, the conference is trying to get more exposure. So whether that means dumping Facebook for good and Stadium and all that, and just bowing down to the ESPN overlords, or
just do ESPN Plus. Yeah,
it's definitely something that I think the individual programs are begging for. The athletic directors, university presidents, and so far, so much more down the line, that they're telling Judy, "Hey, you got to get this done, or it's. I mean, what's the dang point in being here?" So
right, no, I agree. let's talk a little bit about the FAU defense for this 2021 season. And I think Bill Clark said in his press conference that there's still like 8 or 9 guys, starters for that defense that were on that 2019 team. Is that correct, Jack?
Yeah. It is insane because that 2019 defense, I was thinking, oh man, this defense is young. They're going to get walked all over, and they ended up like being number 2 in the nation in turnovers or something. Just absolutely insane ball hawks. Even last year's defense was really stout. One of the best in the group of 5, and 10 guys have returned from that defense. So it's definitely one that is not going to be pushed around, or at least we hope, doesn't get pushed around. Unless you're a triple option team, then you can just have your way. It's fine.
Right.
Well, who would you say are the leaders on that defense? Would that be like a couple guys on the defensive line or secondary, or who should UAB fans be looking for?
Yeah, that's a great question. Last year the defensive line, I doubted them a lot because again, a lot of young guys in the 2020 year, but they just balled out. The anchor of that defensive line was Leighton McCarthy, who was one of the nation's leader in sacks and tackle for losses. He actually went pro. He declared early. So he's the one starter that did not return. That being said, this year, defensive line might get some heat for this. They haven't really lived up to their expectations. Haven't really applied the same amount of pressure at the very least. We can all see that. We can see the lack of QB hurries so far this year. Again, you might say, oh, okay, well, you played an SEC offensive line. Same thing with UAB did when they went to Athens with UGA. You then play a spread triple option team in Georgia Southern. You then play an FCS team. Okay, but we only had 1 sack that game. Then you play Air Force, a team that's going to run the ball a gazillion times and make you want to scream into a pillow. Not saying that happened, but, whatever. So beyond that, I definitely wouldn't say it's a defensive line, although there are some pretty impressive players there. Evan Anderson, Chris Jones, some more young guys. But I would say the linebacker position for sure. One guy who was out for 2020 for academic reasons, Achilles Leroy. He was a team captain in that 2019 team. And he's definitely one of the most emotional leaders on the team. Absolutely love him. Love his work ethic. Love his passion. He's just one of those traditional, frankly, like a Derek Brooks kind of guy who wears his heart in his sleeve. And you can tell I'm a Bucs fan here. And, is just going to lay it all the way out on the gridiron. And that's something that he does, and he does it really well. So Achilles Leroy is definitely a guy to look out for. And, we're having some issues in the defensive back position. I'm not going to lie, which is shocking because you would think, again, a team from Florida, they're going to have a lot of speed, and that helps the DBs. But we really quite haven't seen the chemistry quite there yet. I mean, maybe it's because this is our 5th or 6th defensive coordinator in 5 or 6 years. So we're still trying to understand the scheme of it all. So in that third layer of the defense, it's quite hard to kind of just pick one guy and say, yeah, avoid him, like we've had in the past. So the one guy I will say would probably be Achilles Leroy, but for personal reasons, I just love the kid. Great guy, no doubt.
Nice.
I remember from that 19 team, and obviously I don't remember his stats that day in the championship game, but I remember him having an impact. Now, I mean, no doubt about that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to throw out maybe one more. Zion Gilbert, how about that? Guy from Alabama, Montgomery, if I remember correctly. He came in, I think, Lane Kiffin's first or second year. Really, really good safety. It was actually a lot of talks that he was going to turn pro this offseason. But losing to Memphis in the Montgomery Bowl last year, he said he did not want to play his final game, his final collegiate game in his hometown and have it be a loss. He said, no way. I want to come back, let it be a conference championship game, let it be a big-time bowl game, and win that. And he's another fiery guy that I absolutely love. So that's going to be a safety defensive back you have to keep your eye on.
Definitely. Jack, what do you think UAB needs to do on the offensive side of the ball to have a shot at getting the win this Saturday against FAU? Is it just establish the run game? Because, I mean, I know the Air Force stats kind of flaw, FAU's rush defense, but would you say that just establishing that run game and then trying to hit some play action, what UAB loves to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it. Literally, that's right on. I mean, Jermaine Brown Jr. I mean, he looked pretty solid in that game against Liberty. Only saw 9 carries. What's up with that, guys? I mean, feed him the rock. I mean, he's no Spencer Brown or nothing, but I mean, the dude looked like a baller for sure. So it's, FIU has a really strong running back in Devontae Price. That's pretty much the only thing FIU football has right now. And FAU did a good job of shutting him down. That's one of the issues that FIU has, is that opposing defenses will just kind of stack the box, forcing them to throw, and then that's when they're going to make mistakes. So yeah, the Air Force stats definitely do kind of sway things in a certain way. But listen, when we played Georgia Southern, we struggled against the run as well.
Yeah.
There's not exactly a triple option, a little more of the spread. Some misdirection, not as much as Air Force, but it definitely showed that gashing runs can definitely hurt the FAU defense. I think the defensive backs, while they're still kind of learning the scheme, trying to find their chemistry with one another, I don't mean any disrespect at all, but I think they can kind of just out-talent just about any Conference USA receiving core. Again, don't mean any disrespect to that, but it's just that South Florida nature. When you think of DBs, I immediately think of South Florida, no doubt about it, especially when it comes to the league. So when it comes to depth, they have it. It's just whether or not they can understand the scheme, whether or not they don't blow any coverages. But when it comes to the running game, yeah, that seems to be the biggest weakness so far. So if UAB can keep doing that, I mean, is Brown going to be playing? I mean, what was the issue with only the 9 carries?
Well,
that's just the way they do. That's just the way they do. I mean, they have 2 guys that they split carries with, and Dwayne McBride and Jermaine Brown are the main 2, and they got Lucius Stanley will carry the ball some, and it really wasn't. It was kind of a flow of the game thing too. Didn't really have a lot of plays in the second half. Now that was part of it, because it couldn't stay on the field. Went 3 and out. I think the first 4 possessions. So it was just kind of a matter. It wasn't playing that way. It was just kind of a game flow sort of thing. And really, I mean, and as good as Jermaine Brown is and was, on a couple runs the other night, I mean, if Dwayne McBride is the guy that they really need to ride, and
okay.
They've got to get him good. They've got to get him. He's a second-year freshman. He played last year, and he's just not the type of guy right now that they can just, give the ball to 30 times. Kind of like that was the thing. Spencer Brown stepped on campus with the ability to carry the ball 30 times a game, just from the day he stepped on campus. And Jordan Howard before him, went back in, way back when, he was the same kind of guy. He could carry the ball. They got stronger as the game went on. And Dwayne McBride is the kind of guy that if he could do that, will be a beast, because he's hard to tackle and he'll pound you, but right now he's just not a guy. So that's why Jermaine Brown and him, they're kind of, they complement each other. They do a great job of complimenting each other, but neither of them are going to get, or 20 carry, 25 carry game type guys right now. So it was just a game flow thing. And, heck, this week he might have, 18 or 19, just sort of a flow.
I mean, McBride looked solid last year. I just didn't know if he was passed over by Brown or not, but that running back by committee thing. I mean, it's hard to try to give both guys or X amount of guys. I mean, FAU, it seemed like it's 5 guys. It's insane. Right. I don't mean burgers and fries. I mean running backs.
Yeah.
A little plug. Did they sponsor y'all? They should after that, right?
Yeah, I'm ready for that. Yeah, that works for me.
Give us a call.
What are you doing, boys? Yeah, we'll get some free French fries up in here.
There you go.
But it's hard to give all those guys, carries for sure to kind of get the flow going. So it's whoever has the hot hand, or I guess in this case the hot legs. You just got to kind of feed them the ball, no doubt.
Right. No doubt. And they got to be able to stay fresh enough to do that too. And I think that again, that's been sort of an issue right now, and so they kind of have to just sort of ride who they can ride. Type of thing. So, but I tell you what, both those kids are good now. They're both are really good players.
It's better to have two really good players that are struggling for time than no good players that are playing all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a good problem to have.
No doubt.
And especially when the thing I like about it a little bit too is McBride and Jermaine Brown are different type of runners. So you're kind of given a different look, because last year when McBride came in with Spencer, they're similar type of backs. I think obviously McBride had a little more explosion to him, but they were similar type backs, with Jermaine Brown and Dwayne McBride, they give you a different look. And then when you throw Lucius Stanley in there, he's a little different than those two. So you really have, not, guys that kind of give you a different look on the fly, type of thing. So I think that's been a strength for them so far.
Well, Steve, do you have any other questions for Jack, or do you think we hit it all?
No, I think this is good. This has been good. No, I tell you, I'm looking forward to it. I just think it'll be a fun afternoon, and just really looking forward to it.
Yeah,
hey,
absolutely.
And like I said off the top, let's do it again. Let's do it again at the end of the year.
Yeah,
let's do it again, baby. No doubt. Man. It's definitely two great teams, good fan bases. And especially everything that's been going on with UAB and my personal connection with UAB. I know a lot of people from UAB Twitter over the years, especially during a free UAB time era. What should we even coin that? The dark ages? I don't know. My mother, she graduated from UAB. I mean, it's way back before they had football. But she follows the program still. So it definitely has a soft spot in my heart, no doubt about it. So I'll be really excited when both of our names get called up to go to the American together. Knock on wood. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be neat. No doubt.
Yes. Well, Jack, thanks again, man, for hopping on with us. Guys, if you're not following FAU Owls Nest, definitely go ahead and give them a follow on Twitter at FAU_Owls_Nest. Also, give Inside the Burrow a follow. That's their podcast for football, for FAU football. It's at Inside the Burrow. But also, give Jack a follow. He's got a personal account at JackWhidden3. So, hey, go ahead and plug that too, baby.
There you go. Appreciate it. John, Steve, hey, thank you so much, guys, man. And everyone, if you all love anti-Marshall content, I'm your guy.
Nice.
Who doesn't love anti-Marshall content?
Come on, man. Losers, that beats me, man. They're just a special type of people. I cannot wait to leave them. I cannot wait.
Well, all right, guys. Steve and I will be back in just a couple of days after the game to hopefully Monday morning to give you guys an instant reaction to the FAU UAB game. But as always, guys, go Blazers.